Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to talk about my favorite books of 2023. Okay, I read 202 books in the year 2023, which is pretty good. I have 23 favorites for the year of 2023. I have my 10 honorable mentions to the side over here, and then we have 13 in this pile that are in the correct order. And sorry if you don't like the fact that it's 13, which is a odd number and everything like that, but that I physically could not pick between these, especially the top 5 here. The top 5 were so hard to put them in the correct order. So I'm gonna go through my 10 honorable mentions. I'm not really gonna talk about them, just gonna hold them up and show you what they are. I might say 1 or 2 words, but probably not. Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. This is a literary love story between Yasmin and Josiah, who have been divorced for 2 or 3 years now, and they're trying to figure out their lives together and apart. They're trying to co-own this restaurant together and take care of their kids and just do the life stuff. And you, through flashbacks and things like that, you learn what happened in their marriage and what went wrong. And this was just so beautiful. It drained everything I had to read because it was so slow and so mundane and nothing really happens for a good chunk of this book. But it's also very triggering because of the events that occurred in the marriage. And it made me sob my eyes out. I think I read this in February, and it's still something that I think about often. Then I have Do I Know You by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigma Broca, and Happy Place by Emily Henry. These are both following already established couples who kind of go on vacation together for one reason or another. And I just realized that I love books that follow an already established couple, especially an already married couple who is maybe on the brink of divorce. I don't know. That's a very interesting thing about myself, but they're very sad romances. I just love reading sad things. Then we have They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. I'm pretty sure everyone has read this. It follows Scarlett, who is a serial killer, so that's all you have to know. Oh, and she's also a professor at a college. So, double life. Then we have The Silent Sister by Diane Chamberlain. I will link my reading vlog of me reading this book up here. I think I read it in October. But you follow this girl, Riley, who has always been told that her sister committed suicide when Riley was really young. And things didn't quite make sense to her, so she starts investigating and she finds out the truth about her life. And it was really, really good. It was like a very slow burn mystery, kind of family drama, but typically those don't work for me. Somehow this one just worked really well. Then we have The Last Word by Taylor Adams, which nearly made it to my list for like my favorites this year, because Taylor Adams is back. I personally hated Hairpin Bridge, and I debated not giving this author another shot, but I loved No Exit. And this one seemed kind of more up the alley of No Exit than Hairpin Bridge, because No Exit and The Last Word are both like isolated thrillers. This one is definitely more like, oh, she's house sitting and she leaves a bad book review for a book that she didn't like, and then the author goes crazy and like it seems like he's stalking her and trying to get revenge because she left him a bad review. And honestly, this one was really clever. This was the most clever book that I read the entire year, because it's like Taylor Adams was poking fun at the fact that his writing was not good. So in a way, it was terrible writing, but it was so terrible that it was genius because of the repercussions of the writing in his book. And I don't know, this was just so much fun, but it's also terrifying to me, because I hate reading books about like home invasions and stalking and things like that. I clearly don't hate reading them, but these are the books that scare me in real life, because I'm like, what if I'm at home and someone tries to break in? And like, I'm not afraid to be alone at home, but it is a thought, you know? And it's like, what if someone's stalking me? And, you know, those are the kind of books that make me look over my own shoulder, especially if I'm reading them in public. But this, so much fun. So it was this close to making it to my favorite books of the year. And like, it did. It's a definite honorable mention. But yeah. Anyways. I finished the entire Well Met series by Jen DeLuca, but Well Matched was my favorite. I believe this is the third in the 4-book series. I loved it. Then we have The Boyfriend Candidate by Ashley Winstead. Fun fact, I guess that's not entirely true. I have liked one Ashley Winstead thriller, but generally I love her romance books. I mean, I've only read this one, but it's like politics and romance, and I'm always super upfront, and I say I'm not like a political, I'm not into politics, but this like the first political romance book that I've read, and I enjoyed it a lot. Hold for 1 second. And then the last honorable mention is the whole Brown Sisters trilogy. I read this whole series like back to back to back in June. And I loved Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. And I really liked Take a Hint, Downie Brown. But my all-time favorite was Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert, because Eve Brown, she's my soul sister. She is just me. It says Eve Brown is a certified hot mess. No matter how hard she strives to do right, her life always goes horribly wrong. So she's giving up trying. But when her personal brand of chaos ruins an expensive wedding, someone had to liberate those poor doves. Her parents draw the line. It's time for Eve to grow up and prove herself, even though she's not entirely sure how. So, certified hot mess right here. And I just enjoyed every second of this. So, here are my top 14. I lied, I actually have 14 in this list. I'm going to try to pitch you on reading all of them. But really, just whichever ones you want to read is fun. It's okay. These are just personally my favorite of the 200 books I read this year. Yes, I am stalling. Is that okay with you? Okay. So, number 13, 14. 1, 2, 3, 4. 14. Number 14 is What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall. I'm pretty sure this was Kate Alice Marshall's adult debut, and she slayed. Oh my goodness. Did she slay? Oh no. My headband. So, my student got me that for Christmas because it's my favorite color. But you follow these three friends. Okay, they were friends when they were kids. They don't really know each other anymore. You know, when you grow up, you kind of lose friends. You lose contact with them. You know, things like that. And the world becomes real. But when Naomi was 11, she was attacked in the forest, and her two best friends at the time lied and got this guy maximum prison stay. And so it's like 20 years later, and now that man that went to jail, to prison because they lied, is dead because he got sick in prison and he died. And now the three friends, one of them wants to tell the truth and the other two will do anything to keep it a secret. It was a great thriller. Number 13 is The Love Wager by Lynn Painter, which is actually the second in the Mr. Wrong Number series. I read Mr. Wrong Number last year and really, really enjoyed it. I liked this one more, though, and that doesn't happen often with series for me. But you follow Hallie and... oh, what's that guy's name? Jack and Hallie. So, they're both at this wedding, and Jack has a date, and Hallie and Jack are talking because he's ordering something from the bar and she's the bartender. And his girlfriend gets super wigged out or super jealous or whatever. And then Jack and his girlfriend have this fight and they end up breaking up. So then Jack and Hallie hook up and then they're like, oh, let's just be friends, but let's go on like double dates together, but not really together. They're just like blind dates and we'll sit at separate parts of the restaurant and everything. But when everything goes horribly wrong on those dates, they always go home together. And it was just a really cute romance. It's just a feel good, laugh out loud, funny kind of romance. And I highly recommend, obviously, I highly recommend all of them. That's gross. Alright, number 12 is one that, a book that I previously DNF'd in a previous year, 2019. 2019, was it all the way back in 2019? I don't know, whatever year this came out. Oh, okay, 2021. I DNF'd this book because, like, no. But now look at that. It's my 12th favorite book of the year. Who imagined? I think when I first read The Push by Ashley Audrain, I just thought that this was more of a thriller because it says Thrills and Chills on the back. It's not a thriller. It's a very slow burn, mundane, day-to-day literary fiction. Which, like, when I pitch it like that, sounds so boring. But I love those type of books for some reason. So you follow Blith, who is mom to this child named Violet. And Blith is certain that Violet is, like, evil. And Dad doesn't see it, and it kind of ultimately ends up like ruining their marriage and kind of making Blith spiral. And while she's spiraling, you're wondering, is Violet like an evil genius? Or is Blith crazy? Or both? Or what the heck is going on? And then that last line just made me want to like throw the book, pick it up, kiss it, and read it all over again. I didn't, but kind of wanted to. Alright, number 11 is The Housekeeper by Natalie Barlil. Number 11 is The Housekeeper by Natalie. She's a stalker, she's a liar, she's in your house. They share a past, but only one of them knows it. When Claire sees Hannah at an exclusive Manhattan hair salon, it's like a knife slicing through barely healed scars. It may have been 10 years since Claire saw Hannah, but she has thought of her every day, and not in a good way. So Claire does what anyone would do in her position. She stalks her. And then she gets a job working in her house. And it's crazy because you don't know her motives. And it was like a little cat and mouse game that only one of them knew they were playing. And it was very intense. The next one is Don't Let Her Stay by Nicola Sanders. So I read this one on Kindle, but I liked it so much that I had to buy myself a physical copy. When When someone inside your house wants you dead and no one believes you. So, Joanne and Richard have built this amazing life together. They have a new baby named Evie. And Richard had a previous marriage, and he had a daughter in that marriage. But him and his daughter haven't really spoken for a while. So when Chloe, the daughter, shows up on their doorstep, Joanne finds it very suspicious. But Richard is just happy to have his little girl back. And then things go off the chains, off the rails. And I can't really tell you anything else. Especially, like, don't read the back. Don't read the synopsis. Go in super blind. Because you'll be pleasantly surprised. Like, I was reading it on Kindle. I think I had an arc of it. But it was already out because that's how I am with my e-arcs. I don't get to them in a timely fashion. And I was like flying through it and I was really enjoying it. And then when I finished, I was like, what? So I had to get a physical copy, and it's just like, it's so good because it's very like high energy and not knowing who to believe. Those are my favorite kind of thrillers, when you can't trust anyone and you're not even sure if you know what's going on, but yet you continue to read it to find out if you're correct or not. Yes. Alright, our next one was a 5-star when I read it, and like, I still stand by that. However, I am going to go on a little tangent here in a second. So, The Perfect Child by Lucinda Berry kind of reminds me of The Push. So, I think if you like The Push by Ashley Audrain, you'll like The Perfect Child by Lucinda Berry, and vice versa. But The Perfect Child follows these two, like, adoptive parents, Christopher and Hannah, who are both surgeons at the same hospital. And Christopher gets a case, Janie, who they think at the time that they see her that she's only 2, but she's actually been really, really malnourished. She's been abused, and she's gone through a lot of horrific things that you can't even imagine. That this is not what that book is about, but because she went through all that, she's like the body of a 2-year-old, but she's actually 6 years old, and like her mental state is that of a 2-year-old, even though she's physically 6 years old. And I'm 95% sure that this book, The Perfect Child, is based on a true story of this girl who was found in a closet where she'd been living there for like 12 years, I think, and her family was very abusive. And I'm 95% sure that this book is based on that. If I can find an article about it, I'll leave it linked below for this video. When I was getting my bachelor's degree in education, we studied this case because it was for a linguistics class, and we talked a lot about how her abuse, the abuse she suffered, actually, like, hurt her vocabulary and her ability to talk and things like that in real life. So I think this book is slightly based on that. But this follows, like, the adoptive parents, Christopher and Hannah, and Christopher is the first doctor to see Janie in the emergency room after the police found her and rescued her and took her in. And then Christopher and Hannah decide, hey, we're gonna take her in to our home, and it becomes like this, oh yeah, we want you as a part of our family type of thing. However, Janie kind of acts weird around Hannah, like she's jealous that Christopher is also hanging out with his wife, and like, yeah, she just kind of goes a little cray-cray on her, and you wonder, are the parents crazy or are the kids really evil? Then I have the first thriller I read this year, which was Stay Awake by Megan Golding. This is amazing. So this follows Liv, who goes to what she thinks is her apartment in Manhattan, and she gets, like, arrested, and the people are like, no, we've lived here for 5 years, and turns out that her memory from the past 5 years is gone, and you're trying to figure out what happened to her memories, why did she lose them, and what is actually going on in this book. And I just love being confused. I love suffering from the memory trope in my novels, because that is one of my favorite tropes in a thriller, is memory, like amnesia. Okay, we're gonna switch gears for a moment and go to one romance that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's number 7. Yours Truly by Abby Hamenzi. This is the second book in the Part of Your World series. I know that I'm the unpopular opinion here, but I actually liked Yours Truly better than Part of Your World. So in Yours Truly, you follow these two. Brianna and what's her boy? Jacob. Jacob and Brianna. And they're both doctors, and they both suffer, more so Jacob, but they both suffer with anxiety disorder, and they're both emergency room doctors. And it's just this super slow burn, super sweet romance that I just loved. Alright, we are going back to thrillers. So this is number 6. And this is The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead. This is dark. I'm saying that this is in 6th for me. But I would not recommend it to many people. Actually, I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah, no, I would not recommend it to a lot of people because of the trigger warnings in here. So, if you want to know the trigger warnings, please comment down below and I will, like, privately tell you. But there's a long list of mature content trigger warnings that are horrific to read about, that are terrifying. But you follow This one is Shay. You follow Shay because her best friend from college just committed suicide, and she doesn't believe that it was suicide, which makes her start to go back to her college days and investigate what happened to her other best friend in college. Like, was her suicide actually a suicide? And it brings up some very lingering, very dark questions that Shay might have now. But please do not go into this lightly. It's on, like, Karen Slaughter level. I would say this one's even darker than Karen Slaughter, personally. But it's graphic. It goes places that a lot of people shouldn't and probably can't read about. So please don't read this unless you're already aware of a lot of the content in here. Unless you can stomach it. Let me see if there's a note. Oh, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna read the content warning that came from the author herself. Content warning: suicide, rape, physical violence, sexual violence, trauma, self-harm, misogyny, gender esteticism, and drug use. But it's dark. There's also a cult. There's going undercover, and like it was good, but oh, please don't go. Ooh, this was disturbing. That's why it's number 6 on my list, because it stays with you, but it's not for everyone. Alright, number 5. Number 5 is another thriller. Oh, this is our last thriller. Okay, our last thriller is All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. I thought this was even better than A Flicker in the Dark, personally. But All the Dangerous Things follows Isabel Drake, who is looking for her son who went missing a year ago. And her son's name is Mason, and no one at the police force is helping her anymore. They've kind of just got a cold case, and they don't really want to investigate anymore. But Isabel is not going to let her son just be taken like that. She's convinced that he is still alive somewhere. So she is investigating on her own, and she's a badass. So, this is the type of mom that someday I'll be. I mean, hopefully not. Hopefully my kids, like, ugh. I know my kids don't even exist yet, but that's bad mojo. But I definitely enjoyed this thriller. It kept me at the edge of my seat most of the book. Alright. Our next one is like a magical realism book. I'm surprised it's only number 4. Okay, no, I'm a liar. That's gonna be number 3. Number 4 is gonna be a literary fiction. It's one that I just read in December. And it's one that I wasn't even gonna get, but I don't know. I really enjoyed Angie Kim's first book, Miracle Creek, so I had to try Happiness Falls by Angie Kim. Again, nothing happens in this book. This book is very mundane, very boring, very day-to-day life, very character-driven. So if you like this kind of books, you'll love this one. This one follows this Korean-American family named Park, I think. The Park family. When the dad goes missing, and you follow them try to come to terms with what happened to their dad, but like you never really figure it out until the end when you finally do figure it out. But like literally nothing happens in this book. It's just about getting to know the characters and the family dynamic, and it reads more like a family drama than a mystery about what happened to missing dad. But I loved every second of it. I sobbed when I read this book. So here's what you're gonna think. If it's gonna make someone sob, it's gonna make it on my favorite books of the year list. Maybe all-time favorite book ever list. But yeah, Happiness Falls. If you still haven't read it, please do, because it was on the same level as Miracle Creek. Alright, now we have a magical realism. This is The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer, which is super funny because this one, I was like, none of them really sound like my type of book. I might just skip this month. But something was like, you know what, you'll just try it. You probably won't like it, but you'll try it. I ate this book up. You follow Lucy, who is obsessed with Lake Island. No, not Lake Island. Clock Island, which is this series of books that this author stopped making, but he's finally written his last book in the series, and somehow she was picked to come to Clock Island, maybe win the official manuscript and decide what to do with it. And she just has to go through these competitions on Clock Island, and Clock Island is very magical. And Lucy is a TA, and she's trying to get enough money together to adopt this kid that she TAs for. And that's all I'm going to tell you, but this was such a beautiful book. Yes, it is number 3, but that's because the other two were just, such smashes. They were so good. But this was so beautiful and so touching. So if you want a book that's just going to smack you in the face and grab your heartstrings and pull them out, The Wishing Game will do that to you. And then our last two, so number 2 is Una Out of Order by Margarita Montemor. This is so beautiful too. This one also made me sob. You follow Una, who she was born on New Year's. So she's at a New Year's party and the clock strikes midnight. So now it's her 19th birthday, but she wakes up in the morning and she's 51 years old. And she doesn't recognize anything or anyone because, hello, she was 19 yesterday. And she gets to live, really, she's 19, but her body and her life is that of a 51-year-old woman. And then you get to live in her life for a year at that age, and then she pops to a different time, and her life is just so beautiful. And again, it's more like character driven because you're stuck with Una this entire book. And for me, it almost didn't even seem long enough to be with her. It just seemed so sad when I had to say goodbye. But it was beautiful. So beautiful. And my top book of the year is one that I almost didn't even buy. I think I saw it on Gabby's channel though. And that is We Spread by Anne Reid. In We Spread, you follow this lady named Penny who's getting older, and she can't really live at home anymore because she's getting older and she can't take care of herself in the right way. So the landlord comes in one day after she's fallen down and she can't get up, and he's like, Penny, you promised that when you got too bad, when you couldn't take care of yourself anymore, your husband's been gone for like a year now, or for a little while, you promised you'd go to a home, so let's go. So he helped her pack up, and he took her to this like retirement village, but it's kind of a weird retirement village. And the entire time you're wondering, is it just like a really cozy retirement village where there's only a few guests? Or is there something sinister going on? Or is Penny just losing her functioning and her memories slowly? And like, oh, Penny. There were days when Penny was like, oh, I remember when I was a young lad, I would go dancing with me and my husband, or we'd just go dance all night, or I would read all these books, but now I don't. I just like lay here and I don't even have energy to open my eyes to read a book. And honestly, Penny was just like, getting a hug from a grandma. And I needed that at the time, but obviously this book made me cry. Thinking about Penny still makes me cry, and don't even get me started. I know she's a fictional character, but you just wonder if the place she's at is safe, or if she's slowly losing it to dementia. And it's so sad to watch someone go through that in real life and in a story. I've never read a book in which dementia or Alzheimer's is done with such beauty and such grace as it was in this novel. And there was a book that I read this year about someone who had Alzheimer's, but I thought that it was one of my worst books of the year, for sure. But this one was just done so it was perfect. It hit me in all the wrong ways, because I watched my grandpa suffer for years with early onset. He had they call it sundowners. He had sundowners, so when the sun went down, it was like he was a different person. And sometimes they don't really tell you, but like, you get angry. And like, I don't blame him, because you're losing your memories, you're losing your faculties, you're losing everything up here. So it must be very frustrating. And I don't even know if they know that they're getting angry, but oh, Penny was just like, oh, she was, I'm speechless over this book, but it's terrifying, because if you're someone who's afraid to get older and of dying and of losing everything up here, like, then this is going to be terrifying. I'm not afraid to die. And I know that sounds really crazy and really weird, like, you're not afraid to die, but I'm really not. I'm afraid of the people that I love having to watch me, like, get sick and get close to death. And I think it's because of my life. Like, I survived cancer when I was little, and I'm not afraid to die, but I'm afraid to suffer. I don't know if that makes sense, but this was just so beautiful, and it just like hit me so close to home, because my grandpa, the last day that I saw him, the day that, like, I didn't know it was gonna be my last day with him, but he called me Beulah. Beulah was my grandma. And he held my hand and he told me that he missed me and that I was the love of his life. Clearly, he was talking to my grandma. But, like, they always say you just let them have that moment and don't take that away from them. And so that's like the most, that was like my goodbye with my grandfather. And it's like, ugh, I didn't mean to be a sobbing mess for my favorite books of the year, but if you want an emotional hot mess of a book, no, this is not a hot mess of a book. I'm the emotional hot mess. This is just an emotional, draining, terrifying novel that I highly recommend. It is a horror novel, and I loved it. So, those were my favorite 24 books of 2023. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to my channel. If you are new around here, I will catch you in the next video. Bye.